Hi there, this is the second part movie for the side lecture on comparative literature presented by Sumio Umekawa with my old picture. Again, I think this was when I was 6 years old. I returned to my old kindergarten to watch their sports day. In the second part, we investigate Song and Yuan literature. Firstly, I have to talk the background of these eras and then the emergence of vernacular literature. Finally, we study about the shift from Shi-style poem to Ci-style poem, and finally to a stage performance called yuanju. As you may know, the Song dynasty was the empire ruled by Han tribe, whereas Yuan dynasty was Mongolian empire, meaning a fewer Mongolians ruled the majority of Han tribes. However, Mongolian has been admired the culture of Han Chinese. Therefore, they tried to absorb Han culture quite quickly. This is why Song and Yuan cultures are often discussed together, though Yuan culture surely involves Mongolian influence. The most important point when we discuss these periods should be the fact that the Song dynasty was the era when Chinese experienced a great expansion of intelligence. Some scholars believe that Song dynasty must have been enjoyed the highest level of average intelligence throughout the Chinese dynastic history. There were, of course, several reasons for the rapid and numerous increase in people's intelligence. For instance, it is usually pointed out that the old Buddhist scriptures were compiled as national project during the early Song period. As it was a national project, they established many offices where monks translated sutras into Chinese. Also, in order to create all scriptures, new Buddhist scriptures were greatly transmitted to China. What is more, due to the development of technology, they had invented publication techniques. So, all Buddhist scriptures were printed instead of hand copied. It further indicates all the other compilations, no matter if it was old or new, started to have larger and easier accessibility. In short, people of the Song dynasty were able to buy a book instead of borrowing and hand copying one. As a result, larger number of people could get a book much easier than before. The Song was also the era that Chinese people witnessed the emergence of new dynamism in religious and philosophical field. It was when a new type of Taoism appeared, and it was also when what is known as Neo-Confucianism emerged. Neo-Confucianism, differently from preceding pedagogical approaches to the text, focused on the contents of texts and started investigation on what was written and what was discussed in the text, rather than on how to render a particular character and what the character had indicated. Owing to the rapid development of Neo-Confucianism, Confucian scholars agreed in that Confucian thoughts regarded human beings having Li and Xin, the reason and emotions. Anyway, it is since the Song dynasty onward that Confucianism became philosophical studies. Also, I personally regard it as one of the most important backgrounds for Song expansion of intelligence that the flowery world had become more opened. By the end of the previous Tang dynasty, the buildings allowed to be built in region for the flowery world had been limited to a kind of sex shop where you can enjoy food, wine, and entertainment by the super prostitute. However, from the Song, Some other shops were started to be allowed to exist in Flowery region, such as normal restaurants, fishmonger, butchers, and etc. With the expansion of Flowery World, the access by common people also enlarged. For instance, fishermen selling fish to restaurants or fishmonger could get into the Flowery region. Farmers might get into the region to sell vegetables and fruits. Some of them surely dreamed of visiting the shop to have a good time with prostitute. Apparently, richer people like merchants could have good opportunities to enjoy the flowery world. And if you had such an opportunity, it would be natural that you could flirt the ladies and be fond by them. However, as I said in previous movie, the flowery world was basically for elite people, and uh, ladies there were quite high standard. Therefore, in order to flirt the prostitutes, you had to compose a poem to send them. Thus, common riches faced to the necessity to learn how to read and write. And I strongly believe such secret intention to be admired by beautiful ladies must have been a very good motivation for many common men to study hard to be literated. Also, from the Song onward, something called Jiantan became very popular. It was a kind of reading recitals in which the storyteller told the famous stories, histories, or sometimes Buddhist thoughts easily for the audience. So far, there existed four different types of reading recitals. Small talk was the recitals to read stories like the weird stories or the rare stories. Explaining Buddhist sutras was the ones in which the speaker told us Buddhist episodes or teachings. Reading historical episodes was the gathering in which the storytellers focused on historical episode. We know that there also existed a gathering called Hushan, although what was told in this particular gathering is still unclear. Some scholars assume this particular one could have been a sort of comedy show. Now we should move to the birth of vernacular literature. Along with the increasing popularity of such reading recitals, people faced to the needs for written records of the recitals. As such gatherings should have included entertaining elements, the storytellers could have changed the details in accordance with the reaction from the audience. Sometimes they would have exaggerated the contents, and other times they would have expanded the stories. Given that the story told by Oyama Nobuyo, the voice actress playing Doraemon's voice for ages, were greatly applauded. Then some audience might require to listen to the very same story told by Nozawa Masako, the voice actress for Goku in Dragon Ball. As I said, however, the storytellers change the details in accordance with the audience. If people want Nozawa to tell exactly the same story told by Oyama, someone should take a record of Oyama's recital. This is probably how the written records of reading recitals started to be created. Amongst these written records, those for small talks were differentiated as huaben, whereas those for reading history as pinghua. The emergence of these huaben and pinghua was the limestone in the history of Chinese literature, since Chinese writings had been written in written Chinese, which was quite different from spoken Chinese. Such difference in writing and speaking had been one of the difficulties for Chinese people to learn how to read and write. Nonetheless, Huaban and Pinghua were written in spoken Chinese because they were the record of storytelling which should have been done in spoken Chinese so that all the audience could understand. Apparently, For newly literated Chinese, Huaban and Pinghua were much easier to read. Due to the establishment of publication techniques, printed books have become an item for business. Then some people started to write stories in spoken Chinese like Huaban and Pinghua style, rather than traditional written Chinese. Thus, we finally witnessed the emergence of Baihua literature, meaning vernacular literature written in spoken language. With the verse of vernacular literature, popular stories started to be repeatedly copied and plagiarized. For instance, the history of Three Kingdoms, surely one of the popular stories taken in the reading recitals, was shifted to Pinghua style novel of Three Kingdoms, and then popular stories of Three Kingdoms. Of course, Pinghua style and popular stories were two of the numerous number of variations which fortunately gained popularity amongst other versions. Anyway, Chinese famous stories developed through such repeated copies and plagiaries. Finally, let me explain the shift of poetry. As we have studied, the word shi originally specified lyrics of songs. However, as the shi was involved in proper literature, Chinese needed to create another term to indicate lyrics of songs, which was yuefu. Yet, yuefu also became a type of poetry and included in a proper literature. They produced another term, ci, specifying lyrics of songs. As we have gone through, shi style poem reached its height during the preceding time period. Some Chinese admired Tang Shi poem greatly, but at the same time they quickly gave up to compose better Shi style poems than Tang people. Thus, some people devoted themselves onto Ci lyrics, and Ci became another style of poetry during the Song dynastic period. The main difference between shi and ci can be which you compose earlier, the rhyme or music, or lyrics. Since shi from the period of the Book of Old usually followed a particular rhythm, Tang Shi poetry basically followed 5 beats or 7 beats rhythms. In short, in the case of Shi style poem, it was always a rhythm or music first, and the lyrics should be composed along with the music. On the contrary, in the case of Ci poem, it was lyrics which should be composed first. Music should be added along with the written Ci poem. The rapid growth and popularity of Ci style poem is generally understood in relation with expansion of the flowery world. As I said, if you wanted to attract prostitute ladies, you should write a poem. The poem here indicated Ci style poem. Given that you visited a shop in the flowery world holding a Ci poem you have composed. If your Ci poem were very good, prostitute ladies who were good at playing musical instruments would start playing the instruments, and the one who were good at singing would sing your Ci poem along with the music. Then men visiting flowery world competingly write Ci-style poems, so that his poem was chosen to be sung by prostitute ladies. When Yuan dynasty arrived, even though Mongolians admired Han culture, poetry was apparently too difficult for them to enjoy. Being a horse-riding nomadic people, Mongolians required more active entertainments. Not only stories, but with acting. Not only acting, but with singing. Not only singing, but with dancing. Answering such preference of Mongolians, the stage drama called yuanqu emerged. For those who have never seen Chinese stage dramas, I would say it was much closer to musical like Lion King than, for instance, Hamlet by Shakespeare. So far as we know, there emerged two types of yuanqu during the Yuan dynastic period. The one called Zaju emerged in the northern part of Yangtze River, whereas the other one called Nangju did in the southern coastal regions like Hanzhou. Both of them contained Chu um, the relics of songs, and Bimbai, the lines for players to speak, and Ke or Jie, meaning stage directions. Uh, there were some differences between Zaju and Nanju. For instance, in Zaju, prayers were divided into three types: Mo, Dan, and Jing. Amongst all the actors, only one prayer, either Zhen Mo, the top Mo actor, or Zhen Dan, the top Dan actor, can sing. Except for that one, all the others do not sing. Also, in Zaju, they use only one genre of music. So if one stage drama used jazzy music, all the music and songs in that drama should be jazzy. Whereas if another stage drama picked up, let's say K-pop, all the music and songs in that drama should be K-pop. Meanwhile, in addition to Mo Dan and Jin, Nanju involves two other different types of prayers called Sheng and Chou. Moreover, in the case of Nanju, all the players can sing. Since in the case of Zaju, only one actor can sing, it is always solo singing. But in the case of Nanju, there are solo singing, duet singing, chorus, round chants, and etc. Furthermore, Nanju uses different types of music in one stage, so you may hear jazzy solo, K-pop duet, and very classical choruses. Although such Yuanchu stage drama should have influenced by Mongolian tastes of entertainment, it was quickly loved by Han Chinese people as well, which affected later Chinese literature greatly. And finally, just for your information, the best hit stage drama is said to have been Romance of Western Chamber, composed by Wang Shifu. But this best hit stage drama was actually based on Yuan Zhen's story of Ying Ying. So that's all for the second movie. Let's see you in again in the part 3.